About 5, 6 years ago, I was diagnosed with atrial fibrillation. I'd start off the day for 4 hours just curled up in a ball. It felt like Freddy Krueger was on the inside of my stomach trying to claw his way out. It hurt so bad. I turned to her with tears in my eyes and I said, I'm done. I can't take this anymore. I can't live like this. My son asked me if this was going to shorten my life. He says, Dad, I'd like to keep you around a little bit longer. And if you'd be willing to listen to me with an open mind, I want to tell you something. Sometimes you have to be beat down to your very bottom. You got to be desperate before you're willing to listen, before you're willing to succumb. And that's what I was. I was at my last straw. I couldn't take anymore. At the end of that 60 days, there was so much arthritis that left my body. After about 9 months or so, I had an appointment with my cardiologist. He examined me and he's looking over my chart. He's seeing how much weight I've lost, what I've accomplished, and my EKGs and everything. So he looked me over. He says, Your charts are good. You're not having any palpitations. And he's like, Wow. He says, I don't think you need to see me anymore.
Hello and welcome, Carrie here from Healing Humanity, the Power of a Proper Human Diet. And today I'm thankful, grateful, blessed to welcome Geoff to the channel. Welcome, Geoff. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Carrie. I appreciate you having me on here. You've been quite an inspiration to the carnivore community, and I've been following you ever since I became a carnivore, which was uh, a little bit over 2.5 years ago. So I'm just a little behind you on the scale, but I have seen a lot of what you've gone through has been what I've gone through. We marry each other quite a bit in our journeys. And I've always felt a connection to you because of that. And I've always appreciated your efforts, what you're doing with your documentary and everything, and how you've touched so many people. You've been quite an inspiration to a lot of people, Carrie, including myself.
Oh, well, thank you. I really appreciate your nice words. I love hearing these stories, and I really appreciate the fact that you're willing to get out there and share your story here and on other channels. I know you were on with Dave, who's incredible. I think Dave surpassed like 1,000 interviews
Yeah.
now, which is amazing. So many good stories because, like your story, Geoff, will inspire people that might not have been inspired by my story or someone else's story. So I think it's so important to get all those stories out there. So really interested in hearing yours. Maybe if we could start out, what sort of led you to a carnivore diet?
Well, first and foremost, my health. This was never been a weight loss journey for me, even though the weight loss was miraculous. It was a sideline. It was a side adventure. My main thing was my health, and what started it all off was about 5, 6 years ago. I was diagnosed with atrial fibrillation and paroxysmal, if I'm pronouncing that properly, atrial fibrillation. And I'd already gone. It's not that I'm in AFib all the time. It's just I go into AFib uh, about once or twice a year, and it can be really severe enough that I have to be rushed to the hospital, and I end up in ICU for a few days. So what happens is my upper atrium stops working; it just flutters. When that happens, I'm getting no blood through my system, and I'm literally the fish out of water. I can't get any air. I can't breathe. My heart is racing. My blood pressure's off the charts. Nothing's happening. So uh, I've been rushed to the hospital 4 times. After my third time, I had to have a cardiac ablation where they go up through the groins, through the veins, and they go in there and they burn the heart, burn some nerves in the heart, and that is successful about 60% of the time. Well, I fell into the 40%. A year after my ablation, I had another bad AFib attack, and as I was laying on the gurney in the ER, and a team of doctors and nurses were working on me trying to get my heart back in rhythm. My wife was stroking my arm. She was sitting beside me, and she was comforting me. And I turned to her with tears in my eyes, and I said, "I'm done. I can't take this anymore." I can't live like this. And uh, they got me back in rhythm. And a couple of weeks later, all this is going through my mind. What's been going on, and I know I need to make some changes in my life, but I don't know what or how. And my son was home from the oil fields, and he was visiting, and this had to be, this had to be the hand of God to push him to do this. But my son asked me if this was going to shorten my life, and I said, yeah, probably. I'm definitely at a greater risk for stroke. I'm at 5 to 6 times higher risk for stroke because of it. And he says, well, Dad, I'd like to keep you around a little bit longer, and if you'd be willing to listen to me with an open mind, I want to tell you something. And so I told him, yeah, I can listen with an open mind. And so he started to explain to me about nutrition. He didn't mention carnivore at the first. He just mentioned nutrition and how it works in our bodies. And then eventually that led up to carnivore. And he explained about how toxic plants are. He explained, you know, uh, what Chafee says about plants are trying to kill us. Uh, he went through the whole gamut of explaining to me the science behind it and what all the carnivore doctors are saying about it, and that he had been doing it for quite a few years himself, and he just never mentioned it to me because he didn't feel like I would be receptive to it. Well, sometimes you have to be beat down to your very bottom. You got to be desperate before you're willing to listen, before you're willing to succumb. And that's what I was. I was at my last straw. I couldn't take anymore. Excuse me. So everything he said resonated with me, and the way he approached it and the way he said it, it made sense to me. So he sent me articles. He sent me videos from all the common doctors, carnivore doctors. Chafee, Berry, uh, Baker, even Avadia, because of my heart. And so I studied those, and it started taking me down rabbit holes on YouTube. And it's eventually how I found you and many other influencers. So the more I read, the more rabbit holes I went down, the more this made sense to me. Uh, and the thing is, I've been brainwashed like everybody else, but I've never had nutrition and the human physiology ever explained to me the way these guys did. And it just made so much sense to me. I said, well, who was it? Barry, I think. I don't remember now. Somebody said, try it for 30 days and see what happens. And I actually made a plan. I'll try it for 90 days, but let's go 30 days at a time. So I went 30 days. In that 30 days, I had so much inflammation leave my body. That was the first thing I noticed was my inflammation. My energy levels picked up. Now I went through some of the detoxing, as they say, that, with your gut biome having to adjust and everything to eating fats. But I had studied and I knew exactly what I was getting into. I knew what the consequences were going to be in the beginning. I knew exactly how I needed to eat. I understood the philosophy behind it because I made sure I'm one of these types. I read the directions. I want to know what I'm doing before I jump into it. And so I knew. And because of it, I was I was able to understand what was happening to me. So, like I said, the first 30 days, so much inflammation left my body that I could do things like walk to my mailbox and back. Now, like you, I live out in the country. All right, my mailbox is 100 yards from my house, and I couldn't walk to my mailbox and back without using a walking stick. And more often than not, I'd just drive my pickup on down there because it was just too much for me to walk that far. In a month, I was I was able to walk. I was walking a mile to three-quarters of a mile using a walking stick, but I was walking. In and I saw enough improvement in that 30 days. I said, man, I got to go another 60 or another 30 days. Check this out. So I go another 30 days. In that next 30 days, I was not only walking without pain in my back.
Quick interruption. Today's video is sponsored proudly by ButcherBox. They recently launched a new initiative where you can support your local USA American farmers. Support American farmers with this new US pasture-raised beef from ButcherBox. This is USDA choice meat. Look at this ribeye. It's absolutely fantastic. The cows are never in feedlots. They're pasture raised. There's no antibiotics, no hormones. You're supporting a local American farmer. I get so many people asking me, how can I do that? Now you can do it with ButcherBox. There's more details, including a really special offer if you use the link in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. Now back to today's video.
I got a terribly bad back. I was walking without any pain in my back. I was doing a mile, pushing towards a mile and a half. I was no longer using my walking stick. I carry it now just to fend off critters if I have to. And at one point, I was on my walk and I stopped to talk to a neighbor. And I was about 300 yards from the house. I could see the house from my neighbors. And while I was talking to him, I started to black out. I could feel the world closing in on me. You know, my eyes were just were getting black around the circles, and I knew I was fixing to pass out. So I laid down, and I've got enough first aid training to know how to treat it. So I laid down, elevated my feet, and my neighbor went and got me a cold compress and a bottle of water. Asked me if I needed a ride home. I said, "No, I'll be all right. I'll be all right." So talking to him for 10 to 15 minutes, I finally sat up. I felt okay. So I think I can make it home. I started to walk and I started to black out again. Okay, something's going on. Yeah, I need a ride home, please. And so he takes me home, and I get home. The first thing I do is I take my blood pressure. My blood pressure was, I think, 75 over 52. And I'm like, wow, something's wrong. So I called my cardiologist and I told him what was going on and what happened. He says, get off your metoprolol now. Now, my metoprolol is one of two heart medications that I take. And the metoprolol helps regulate your blood pressure. Well, so Carnivore, in actually less than 60 days, had dropped my blood pressure down to the point where I was normal, but the metoprolol was taking me below normal. And it was causing me to pass out. Normally, you wean yourself off metoprolol, but my doctors know, get off of it now. And so I did. And at the end of that 60 days, there was so much arthritis that left my body. I'm a retired aircraft mechanic. I've spent 41 years working on airplanes, and I developed a lot of aches and pains and a lot of arthritis. And there came a point about the last 5 years of my career where I couldn't make a fist. I mean, it was hard for me to hold my tools, and that's about all I could do. And when all that inflammation and that arthritis left my body, I could do this again. I haven't been able to do that in years. It was wonderful. There's still a little stiffness in a couple of them joints, but man, there's no pain. I can flex my hands again. It's just been absolutely amazing what was going on. And I'm like, man, and I got to back up a little bit. In the first 30 days, I'd had IBS for over 30 years. I've had inflamed bowel, something fierce. And I had recently been diagnosed with Crohn's disease. And they put me on a straight grain diet, and it was killing me. And my Crohn's was eating me up. I mean, I'd start off the day for 4 hours just curled up in a ball. It felt like Freddy Krueger was on the inside of my stomach trying to claw his way out. It hurt so bad. And then I'd spend the rest of the day heading to the bathroom, because then I just had squirts the rest of the day. And this was going on every day. So between that and the AFib, man, I was miserable, not to mention all the pain in my body. And in that first 30 days, it was gone. That Crohn's was gone. IBS gone. It went away. And I had an appointment with my gastroenterologist shortly after that. And I says, I'm cured. And they said, seriously, so what we did worked? I said, no, what you did was killing me. I said, I went carnivore. I started eating nothing but straight meat. And I says, I'm cured now. I don't have Crohn's anymore. And they got a little testy with me, and said, well, so I guess you just don't really need us anymore, do you? And I said, no, ma'am, I don't. I'm doing just fine on my own. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Bye. And that was the end of that. So anyway, so 60 days goes by, so much improvement. I'm walking. Uh, I I've got little things. Floaters are less noticeable in my eyes. My eyes used to water all the time. They don't water anymore. My nose used to run all the time, and now that's about 90% gone. I mean, just so many things were happening. And it was just one miracle after another. So after that 60 days, I said, man, I got to go 90 days and see what happens. This is just too good. And so I went the full 90 days. And after that 90 days, I knew that this was the proper human diet for me. I knew that I would do this for the rest of my life. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I knew it in the very core of my being. And so after about 9 or 8 months of being carnivore, and I'm a pretty strict carnivore. I've got one little item that I will eat once in a while on a rare occasion, and that is I will have a jalapeno. I'm a Texas boy. I love my jalapenos, so I'm gonna have me a jalapeno popper every once in a while. Got to do it. But that is my only vice. Other than that, I'm 99% carnivore pure. So uh, after about 9 months or so, I had an appointment with my cardiologist, the one that did the ablation. I have two cardiologists. I had an appointment with him at about 9 months, and we call him the electrician. Anyhow, he examined me and he's looking over my chart. He's seeing how much weight I've lost and what I've accomplished and my EKGs and everything. And he's like, wow. He says, I'm pretty impressed with what you've done. He said, I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to cut your medication in half. And at that time, the only one I was still on was flecainide. So he cut my medication in half. He said, I want to see you again in another 3 months. And he says, if you're doing this good in 3 months, I believe I'm going to kick you loose. I don't think you need to see me anymore. You've done more to heal yourself than anything I could have done for you. And he knew I was carnivore. I haven't lied to my doctors. I've been honest with them because I think that's important that you be honest with your doctors, because if you're honest with them, even if they hate you for it, if they don't like it, if they fire you or whatever, I think it's important that they know what you're doing because they're going to document it. And we are the RCTs, the randomized controlled trials. People don't realize that. Don't lie to your doctors. Let them document this, because the more doctors that document what's going on with us, the more they're going to start, the more the medical community is going to start seeing what's happening. And we are the trials. So anyhow, uh, I go back and see him at another 3 months, and that cardiologist dropped me. He says, I don't think you need to see me anymore. Uh, he says, you've got your regular cardiologist, continue seeing him and follow what he wants. So about 3 months after that, I have an appointment with my regular cardiologist, and he's just been amazed by everything that's going on. And he sees me every 3 months. So he's been following my progress. And again, he knows I'm carnivore. And he just praises everything that's happened. So he looked me over. He says, your charts are good. Uh, you're not having any palpitations. And I would have heart flutters, palpitations, PVCs, whatever. I'd have, 8, 10, 12 of them a day uh, when I was an AFibber. And after I started in on carnivore, they started lessening. And now today, if I have one or two little flutters a week, I barely notice them. Whereas before, each one I'd have would be a question in my brain: is this the one? Is this the one if the heart's going to quit? Is this the one that's going to put me back in ICU? Because they would just make you pause and take your breath away. And now I barely even notice when I have one. They're so mild. Uh, so when I see my cardiologist, he's like, you know, I don't think you need to take this medication anymore. You're controlling this with your diet. He says, in fact, I'm going to cut you down to one time a year. I want to see you once a year. Just come in for a checkup, do an EKG. Let's see how the heart's doing. And so I am now off of all medication. I'm 68 years old. I take nothing now. Uh, I I hesitate to say that my AFib is cured, but I do believe I'm at least at the minimum controlling it or have reversed it, which is extremely positive. All in all, I've lost 67 pounds from my heaviest, uh, or 67 pounds from when I started. I was 227. I'm now 160, which is a little light for my size. I'm 6 foot tall, so 160 is a little light. This last winter, I lost some muscle because I wasn't very active. Uh, I've lost 45 and a half inches total throughout my whole body. I'm a firm believer in not weighing so much as measuring. Once a month, I measure, and I think that's more important than the weight loss. In fact, like you said on your video today, the scales will lie to you, and your body will fluctuate constantly. You know, I've fluctuated as much as 2 or 3 pounds in one day. It just does that. So the true indicators is your inches. So uh, that has all been good, and I did most of that in the first year, and here I am over a year and a half in. So I'm maintaining now, uh, but uh, my knees don't bother me. My back is 90% pain free, and I had spinal stenosis, which I had operated on, which created inflammation in my back. I was like I was like an old man. You know, I get up out of my chair and it would take me 5 minutes to straighten my back up. I hurt so bad. And that was the main reason why I couldn't walk very far. But yeah, now I can knock out 3 to 5 miles at a brisk pace with no support, easy. You know, uh, I've got much greater energy. I have my times when I'm a little sluggish, but I think that's because I haven't eaten enough that day. Uh, but one thing I've noticed is I have sustained energy. I can just go like the energizer bunny. You know, I may not always have quite as much energy as like you have. You know, you're just constantly going and blowing, but I have sustained energy. I can just last for a long time. Uh, my I ride a motorcycle. I'm a very avid motorcycle rider, and a year into eating carnivore, well, prior to that, I got to where I live 7 miles from town, and just a bike trip into town and back would have me, you know, trying to stretch my back out. I'd be sore. And a year into carnivore, uh, another bike club that a buddy of mine belongs to was having their nationals down in New Orleans, and he invited. And I live in North Texas, so I'm quite a ways away from New Orleans. And anyways, they were having their nationals down in New Orleans, and he asked me if I'd like to join them on their ride. And I said, sure. And I thought, well, this is going to be a test. Well, it was a test, but I made it all the way to New Orleans, spent 4 days there, and drove and rode on back, and my back never bothered me.
Hmm.
I couldn't go 14 miles without it bothering me. And here I went a couple of 100 miles and it didn't bother me. So, wow, you know, just another amazing thing that's happened. And here's a couple that I don't hear anybody talk of. On that ride, you pack light when you're riding on a motorcycle. I didn't take my dandruff shampoo. So I went 4 days without my dandruff shampoo. And I got back home and I noticed my scalp isn't itching. I could wear black and I didn't have flakes on my shoulders. And I was taking the strongest dandruff shampoo I could, you know, known to man as far as I know. And I thought, I'm going to just go without any dandruff shampoo. And I just used regular shampoo. Dude, my dandruff is gone.
Hmm.
I've had it ever since I grew my hair out. And I used to wear a butch haircut or, you know, buzz cut up until I went in junior high. And ever since I grew my hair out, I've had dandruff and it's gone. It's no longer there. That I don't hear anybody talk about that. And another thing, I'm no longer day blind. Now, I had to get a prescription when I was in the army. I had to get a prescription to wear sunglasses in formation because I can't see in the daylight. My eyes would be squinted so bad, that I couldn't hardly see. And so I had to wear sunglasses all the time. And I've been that way pretty much most of my life. And I got to noticing, like you, I wear a hat a lot, especially when I'm outside. And, for me, I don't go outside without a hat. I feel naked if I ain't got my hat on. And at the same time, I'd grab my glasses, my sunglasses. And I got to notice, and I was walking out to the barn one day and I went, wait a minute, I forgot my glasses. And I realized I didn't need them. And so I haven't worn my sunglasses in 8 or 9 months now,
Hmm.
except when I ride my motorcycle. I do wear them when I ride my motorcycle because bugs to the eyes hurt. You don't want to get hit in the eyes with the bugs. So, and these glasses are too flimsy. They don't have any frames. They can't handle the wind. So anyhow, I'm no longer day blind. That's
Hmm.
amazing. And that's another one I never hear anybody talk about. And then a weird one off the wall. My flexibility is so much better now. That and losing my gut, I can clip my toenails again. And I know that's a weird one, but I can clip my toenails. I haven't been able to clip my toenails in years, and but I can reach my toes. I can clip my nails. I can bring my legs up high enough where I can get to my nails. It's a little victory, but to me, it's a great victory. I love it. I love the fact that I can do that. Uh, you have sleep apnea. Okay. I have sleep apnea and I was severe. Uh, I have not used my machine in well over a year, if not longer. I'm not exactly sure. Now, I have gone back and requested to be retested, which I have been, and they show that I still have sleep apnea, but I am uh, down to very mild. I'm at a 4 now, whereas before I was at a 22.
Hmm.
So that's a tremendous difference. They do have me fitted with a dental mouthpiece that adjusts my jaw at night, but I'm off the machine, and I hated that machine. My gosh, I hated that thing.
I'm with
Uh,
you.
It'd wake me up, 5, 6 times a night because it'd break the seal, I get tangled up in the hose, whatever. I hated that silly thing. So I'm glad I'm off of that. Thank you, Carnivore, for that. Uh, excuse me. Another wonderful benefit I've noticed about carnivore is the total lack of cravings for anything but meat, for nutrition. I don't want anything going into my body. The idea of putting anything in my body that is what I consider a non-food item, a vegetable, grain, anything like that, no longer appeals to me. I don't want it. Uh, I just, it's just amazing. I have a freedom from food, and I don't get hungry. I have, there's a guy on Kills Tribe that coined the term for me. He has what he calls a keto hunger. And I like that term. It's a keto hunger. I can have an empty belly and I don't feel hungry. It's just an empty belly. It's no big deal. When I actually do get hungry, it's my body telling me I need fuel, and I need fuel from meat and fat. And so the hunger has totally changed. I've fasted a couple of times just because I wasn't hungry, but I've only done one intentional fast just to play with it. But I basically intermittent fast all day long. I have about a 1 hour window of eating a day. Once in a great while, I'll eat two a day, but I only eat when I'm hungry. That's it. I don't have this desire to eat all the time like I used to. So that's been great. Uh, and another one, Nate, something you mentioned, you don't sunburn. Okay, well, I'll challenge you to come down here to Texas and spend a day outside working with me in the sun and see if you don't sunburn. I guarantee you won't sunburn like you did. I know that for a fact because I don't. Now I'm 75% German and 25% Scandinavian. I'm white. I am a white boy through and through. And in fact, I'm so white I glow in the dark. So I've always been a burning peel kind of guy. Well, just riding my motorcycle home from work, I would have to cover myself in sunscreen. Otherwise, I'd be a lobster by the time I got home, and that was about a 45-minute ride. Well, and so anytime I go out hunting, fishing, working on my place, whatever, I'm going to put sunscreen on. And I just got to noticing I could take a trip into town and back, and I didn't have a red nose. And everywhere that normally sees sun, my face, my arms, they weren't burning anymore. They were just turning brown. I might get a little red for a day, but then the next day they'd be brown. And even my daughter noticed how brown I was getting. She says, you're usually always red. Now you're brown. What's going on? I think it's the diet. And I have noticed though, if I've got some bare skin, like I was building a shed here last summer. I was out in the sun all day long welding on this shed, and so the back of my t-shirt would get pulled down, and it would expose some bare skin that hasn't seen sun in 50 years. That burnt, that got red. But the difference was,
Quick interruption. Did you know we have an incredible membership site for you called healinghumanity.life? We have a special offer going on right now. Learn more at the link in the description. We have courses, we have expert Q&As with the good doctors. We even have a Healing Humanity Heroes Zoom call once a week, highlighting real heroes that will inspire you on a path to healing. The community is wonderful, recipes, all sorts of great stuff to help you on a path to healing. Learn more at the link in the description below.
it didn't hurt, and it didn't stay with me but a couple of days, and then it was gone, and then that area just turns brown. And in the past, if I burnt, that burn would stay with me for a week, and then I would have these bumps on my skin, these itchy bumps, and not blisters, but they would just be bumps, and I was told that I might have a skin allergy, or I mean a sun allergy. And I don't get those anymore. And what I understand, what I've been told or read, was that when we quit wearing sunglasses, it opens it allows the sun to turn on our melatonin receptors through our eyes, and it prevents us from burning. That's how the Indians did it. That's how our ancestors did it. How come they could stay out in the sun all day long and they didn't get melatonin? They didn't get cancer, you
Right.
know. They didn't have skin issues. Why is that? Well, because look at their diet. They didn't have all the non-food items that we have available to us today. So that was just an amazing thing.
Hmm.
And so I haven't worn sunblock in quite a while. I don't need it anymore. And now I'm getting out there, and uh, every day it's warm enough for me to do it. I'm not like you. I couldn't live where you live, Carrie. I hate the cold with a passion. Can't stand it. I watch you walking barefoot out there in that stuff. Son, you're nuts. You're nuts in my book. But I can't stand the cold anyhow. But when it's warm enough, and it's been getting up in the 80s down here in Texas now. But when it's warm enough, man, I'm getting out there. I'm getting my shirt off. I'm wearing shorts. I want that sun on my body. I want that natural vitamin D. I'm always constantly looking for help, for health. And that is basically long drawn out story, but that's my story, man.
It's
That's where I'm
amazing.
at today.
Jeff, what is your son's name?
Jared.
Jared. What does Jared think of all this now?
He thinks it's pretty cool. He's not the least bit surprised by it, to be honest. He is. My boy is extremely intelligent. Sometimes too smart for his own good, I think. But uh, you know, if he didn't think it was going to work for me, I don't think he would have suggested it. But he knew it was going to work for me. All he needed was for me to be receptive to it. And I believe that's true of everybody we come across. You know, you can preach this to whoever you want, but if they're not receptive, then they're just going to shut you out. And most people aren't receptive because they're not willing to give up that which is killing them. Well, doctor gives me pills, that's fine with me. Well, that ain't fine with me. They can't understand the freedom that you and I enjoy because of the way we eat. Carnivore is not restrictive, it's freeing. And they don't understand that. And I
Right.
wish I could make them understand it, but you can't.
You
You
can't.
know, the old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, is so very true in this case. You know, I like to say I can lead somebody to the cross, but I can't make them kneel. You know, a lot of times we have to be at the end of our rope before we're ready. And I've actually seen where I've talked to people who are at the end of the rope. I actually talked to a person one time, said they were so miserable, it's a good thing they don't own a gun. And that scared me when they start talking like that. And so I told them about carnivore, and I told them what it could do for their autoimmune issue. And that person's response to me as they drank that full sugar Sprite was, "Oh, I just can't give up my hamburgers." I don't understand that. I can't understand that mentality. So that's one of the reasons why we're a small community, but we are growing, is because people just aren't willing to see the truth for what it is, and it is
Yeah.
the truth. This is the proper human diet.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a sad thing. I'm with you. People don't want to do it until they're so desperate or hit rock bottom. But the thing I've learned, sadly, is oftentimes that could be too late for people. Now you've
Yeah,
got stage 4 terminal cancer, or
yeah,
like my friend Lee Kopis, you've lost your colon forever because
yeah,
you
yeah.
waited too long. Do
I'm
you feel
familiar.
like
I'm familiar with him, and for our past cancer fighters. You know, they give me hope that if I'm ever diagnosed with full blown cancer, they give me hope that I know I'm on the right track already. I've already started the proper diet to help fight that, and to heal my metabolism to help fight it.
yeah? Same with me too. It's like when I hit all of my goals on carnivore, a lot of people do that, and then they're like, "Well, let's go back to moderation. Let's go back to this or
No,
that." No
no,
way. And then
can't do it.
I think about the future. I think about not getting Alzheimer's, not getting dementia, not getting. I might get all of those things, but I think my odds of getting them are much less, being that my
Exactly,
body's not in a
exactly.
state of chronic inflammation anymore.
And I don't understand the mindset of, well, I guess I do understand it because some people aren't willing to completely let go of everything. But uh, I can't understand why would I go back to something or try to reintroduce something into my diet that may have been one of those things that got me in the bad shape that I was in to begin with.
Right?
You know, I don't need to experiment. I already know what is working for me. Why should I change anything? You know,
People say that.
other than that
What about
stinking
this? What
jalapeno that keeps calling my name every once in a
right? Right?
while.
People always say that though. What about this? What about that? As if we're depriving ourselves right now.
Yeah, and I'm not.
Right?
Uh,
Do you feel, Geoff, like this has saved your life or given you a second chance at life?
oh, absolutely, no doubt in my mind. Uh, this is giving me back my life.
Hmm.
You know, I was when I started, I was a 66-year-old man that felt like he was 86 and just waiting on death. I thought about it all the time. You know, my days were extremely numbered. And now, uh, over a year and a half later, almost 2 years now I'm a 68-year-old man who feels like he's 48. You know, uh, I retired 5 years or 4 years ago. 4 years ago, 5 years. This 2025. Yeah, I retired 5 years ago. And when I retired, I was beat down. I was hurting. And uh, the thing that forced me to retire, that what didn't force me, the thing that made up my mind to retire was when a friend of mine uh, at the shop got in an argument with his boss, and he fell over dead of a massive heart attack, and we couldn't save him. He was done. And uh, I said that I don't want to die out here. I want to die at home. I don't want to die out here on the job. And so I retired. And so now 5 years later, dude, I can go back to work again. I feel so good. I've actually thought about it. My son-in-law who is a truck driver, independent truck driver, owns his own truck. He was buying a second truck, and he says, "Dad, you still got your CDL?" And I says, "Yeah, I maintain it. You just never know when it might come in handy." And he says, "Well, how would you like to go to work part time?" He said, "I'm buying a second truck. If I could put you in that truck, 2, 3 days a week, get you a little extra income." And I said, "Yeah, I'm all for it." Turned out his boss wouldn't allow a part time. They want full time or no time. So I ended up not doing it, but I could. If the offer came up again, I'd jump on it in a heartbeat. I wouldn't mind going back to work again.
Hmm.
Uh, just because I've got the energy,
Right.
my body feels so good, and my body's not perfect by any stretch. I still have pains. I still have damage. It's one of those things where uh, I don't know how much carnivore can help a damaged joint. I'm sure it can help to some extent, especially with the inflammation around the joint. But I've had several shoulder surgeries. My right shoulder was totally blown out, and it took a year recovery on it. I had to have surgery. They had to rebuild part of the shoulder, and yeah, it bothers me if I do too much, you know. But the overall general pain is no longer there. I've got a torn rotator cuff in my left shoulder. I'm not going to have it fixed. I don't feel like I need to have it fixed. Carnivore is taking the pain away. If I do too much, yeah, I can strain it. But at the same time, it's not bothering me enough to go under the knife. I do have a prosthetic hip. That bothers me once in a while, but my gosh, I think I'm 5 years or yeah, I'm at least 5 years past the expiration date on that thing. So as long as it's holding together, I'm not gonna mess with it. But it bothers me a bit. I've got some pain going on in my right hip due to the fact I've favored my left hip for so many years
Hmm.
because I tore up my hip when I was 23 years old, and so I've been living with a bad hip ever since then, and which eventually led to a hip replacement. And so all those years of favoring that left side, it's wore out my right side early. Eventually, I may have to have that one replaced, but so I'm not perfect. I still have aches and pains and joint problems,
Right.
but I still have a protruding compressed disc in my back. But as long as I'm careful and don't strain it, it does just fine.
Hmm.
The major thing in all this was getting rid of that stinking inflammation.
Yeah. Something everyone in the world should be worried about. But most people you
Hmm.
talk about carnivore, they're worried about your cholesterol while they're meanwhile inflamed. But Jeff, you said earlier your story was similar to mine. Oh my goodness, so similar. A couple of
Yeah.
the things you mentioned. So I had congestive heart failure, heart issues. Never had the heart ablation, but I did have the heart catheter through the groin where they checked everything out.
Oh, isn't
Uh,
that miserable?
Miserable, absolutely
Oh,
miserable. You mentioned, I'm probably saying it wrong, Metropolol,
yeah.
Flecainide. I was on both of those.
Yep.
The CPAP machine, I was
Yep.
on that too.
I knew we were paralleling so many. Like I said, I
Yeah,
followed
and I
you for
hated the
quite a
CPAP
while.
machine just like you. In fact, I think I was joking with my wife. I'm like, I'm gonna take that thing outside with a baseball bat and just like,
I was thinking
just
about selling mine.
yeah, that's probably a more practical thing to do. Do you
Come on.
do you have any thoughts on the your amazing reversal with your heart? Because I reversed my congestive heart failure. I also had a lifelong irregular heartbeat. I wore many heart monitors. I had AFibs every now and then, very rarely. That wasn't my major issue. But I never in a million years would have thought eating carnivore would help with that. I was terrified to start carnivore if not for Dr. Philip Ovadia, because I'm like, I'm gonna die. I have heart issues. I can't eat meat. That's gonna clog my arteries. The foolish thinking that I was led
Yeah,
to believe. But
there's
do you have
that
any thoughts on
brainwashing.
yours? Like why would changing your diet help with your heart so much?
Okay, the only thing I can go by is what my cardiologist told me, and he said it was the inflammation.
Mm,
He says because you have so much inflammation around your heart and your chest, throughout your whole body, and he says just easing that inflammation off is what helped my heart more than anything. That's the only thing we can figure is it just
right.
goes back to the inflammation.
That's what I've learned as well. That, and I think Dr. Ovadia was telling me this is known science that the brain and the heart perform more efficiently while in ketosis. He's like, that's just a fact. So I'm like, that's interesting. I wish I would have known that years ago, by the way, too, because I did keto on and
Don't
off
we
for
all?
years.
Don't we all?
No one ever
But
told me that. But The inflammation's huge. Now, when you look around in the world, you probably noticed it. I do too. I mean, I remember myself just looking at former pictures. You can see when someone's inflamed, the hands are inflamed, the face is inflamed. When you have that level of inflammation that you can see it on the outside of the body, imagine what's going on the inside of the body, your
Yeah.
heart, all of your organs. It
Yeah.
makes sense.
And it also reduces fluids. You know, you have a fluid sac around your heart. And, you know, when we eat a SAD diet, we tend to retain a lot of fluids. And the more junk we eat, the more we're going to retain. And that's why people end up, you know, with swollen limbs and whatnot. And a good example of that is my mother-in-law. She lives with us, and she's not in real good shape. She's 86 years old, and her legs, her calves were huge. Lymphedema, excuse me, she got lymphedema, and she had so much retained fluid in her legs that she was having to wear compression stocks and keep her feet elevated all the time. And when she moved in with us, my wife and I talked to her. And my wife's not carnivore, but she is more of a loose keto. And but she believes, she's seen what it's done for me, and she believes in it. She knows it's the right way. But anyhow, so we talked to my mother-in-law about, would you mind eating the way we eat? And let's see if we can't help you out. And her legs now, she's been living with us since June of last year, June or July of last year. And her legs are now normal size. Her weight is normal. Her doctor's like, your weight's fine for your age. You know, her weight is normal. She's not taking her blood. She only has to take her blood pressure medication when her blood pressure is elevated. But like in the morning, if we take it and her blood pressure is normal, she doesn't have to take her medication anymore. So, you know, that's been helped out. I believe we've seen a change in her brain fog. You know, we think she may be early stages of dementia, but that doesn't seem to be progressing. Her brain fog has been lifted. So we've seen a lot of improvement in her through this. And it's that the carnivore and has released a lot of the fluids in her. She doesn't have to take a water pill anymore. I mean, it's just we're seeing how it's helped her a bunch.
That's amazing. You mentioned your wife. What was it like for your wife when you first started this? Was she worried? Was she on board?
No,
Or
no, she was on board. If she was worried, she didn't mention it. I kind of broke her in with Atkins years ago. Like a lot of people who became carnivore, a lot of us followed Atkins for a while, and for about 10 years, I was on Atkins, and successfully, I was on Atkins. I mean, I lost weight. I was hitting the gym all the time, and I developed a spinal stenosis, and the worse that got, I was losing the feeling in my legs. I was going club footed, and the worse that got, the less working out I did, and uh, carb creep started coming in on me with carnivore, and that was my downfall on carnivore on Atkins. That was my downfall. It's because Atkins allows you to have X amount of carbs as long as you're not gaining weight. And when I got tired of tracking, I quit tracking, so I started, you know, gaining weight, and I got tired of it, and I gave up on it and went and got fat again. But in the beginning of Atkins, my wife was dead set against it. She just thought I was going to kill myself. You can't eat that kind of food. You can't do that. It'll kill you. And after
quick interruption, thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in learning more about our documentary, Healing Humanity, The Power of a Proper Human Diet, or supporting it, please visit donate.healinghumanity.movie. Our goal is to reach millions of people that are hopeless right now, and sharing the examples of real people over the course of 1 year that are undertaking a proper human diet to overcome obesity, type 2 diabetes, depression, anxiety, fertility issues. We couldn't do it without you. We thank you so much. We are also selling these shirts, Healing Humanity, the Power of a Proper Human Diet. Every penny we get from those goes towards the documentary. And last, we have memberships. If you click the little join button, it's best to do it on desktop. Under any one of my YouTube videos, you can join and become a member. We have hundreds of members right now. We do members only videos. We do members only behind the scenes. You can email me as a member and I'll answer you. And every penny from that goes to support the documentary. And the last thing is we have these Redmond's portable salt shakers. These things are awesome. You can get the best salt. You can take it with you. We sell these on the website along with our water bottles and cutting boards, and every penny from all of those goes 100% towards supporting the documentary. You can also sign up for our newsletter, which is completely free. All of these links are in the description below. Thank you so much for your support. Now back to today's video.
About 6 months or so, she started coming around when she saw what Atkins was doing for me, just being low carb. And she eventually became totally convinced that, yeah, low carb is the way to go. And then so when I started this, and she was in the room with me when my son was explaining carnivore to me, she was fully acceptable of it. And I said, okay, after I studied it on May 9th, I started that diet. And she had no problem supporting me on it, which was wonderful. And I do most of the cooking, and she likes me doing most of the cooking. We have a good arrangement. I like to cook, and she doesn't mind cleaning up my mess. So that's a wonderful arrangement we have. And so she's more than willing to eat whatever I cook. And if she wants something outside of carnivore, then she'll fix it herself. And so that's fine with me. And she's not going to give up her avocados anytime soon. If we at home, she eats 95% carnivore. If we go out, she's going to get her pasta. She ain't going to give that. That's her treat when we go out. And same with my mother-in-law. When she goes with us, we tell her, hey, you don't have to be strict carnivore. You get whatever you want. Enjoy yourself. This is your time to cheat. And she likes her pasta and she likes her sweets. So she'll usually get a pasta and a dessert. But when they're that old and they're in that bad of shape, unless they want to do it 100%, let them enjoy what time they got left. And if that's what they enjoy, then go ahead. For the most part, she's 85% carnivore. And so my wife is very supportive of it.
That's great. You mentioned you do a lot of the cooking. I always get this question when we do interviews like this. What does a typical day of carnivore eating look like for you?
Oh. It can vary a lot as far as the meats. That's something else I get. I can't do carnivore. There's no variety. It's boring. Yeah, well, you have no imagination then, because I do, and I love to cook. Okay, so in fact, to be honest, when I watch you and the girls cooking, I laugh at y'all. I get a kick out. I get a kick out of you. You seem you're like a child when you cook. You just have so much fun doing it. You're so excited about doing it. And I was like, that's so cool. For me, cooking is serious business. It's a science. And so anyhow, I eat a wide variety of meats, and I fix them a wide variety of ways. Now, being a Texan, I got my pit smoker out back. I smoke a lot of meats. I love smoking meats. And I love smoked meat. You want a new flavor experience, and that's for anybody out here. If you like hamburgers, make your hamburger like you usually do, and don't fry it in a skillet. Put it out on your smoker and smoke it. Smoke it and get it to whatever doneness you like. I like mine around 130, 135 degrees, no more than 140. But smoke them to what you like, and that's it. And the flavor is fantastic with that heavy smoke on them. Same thing with your steaks. Smoke a ribeye sometime. Put your salt on it, dry brine it for, a couple of hours, throw it out on your smoker and smoke it till it hits your doneness, which my doneness for a steak is going to be about 120 to 125, and pull it off. Man, it just tastes so good. And I don't even reverse sear it. I just like it plain smoked. So I smoke a lot of meats. Uh, I so a typical day. I haven't eaten yet today, but when I eat today, I cooked up a bunch of hamburgers yesterday. I cooked up some breakfast sausage yesterday, and what else? Uh, oh, and I cooked up some roast. I got some thin. I say thin. They're an inch and a half thick roast, venison roast, and I cooked up four of those yesterday. So I will probably have one of those roasts. That's about a 2 pounder. I'll have one of those roasts, and I might have a hamburger patty along with it. If the roast was smaller, if it was half that size, I'd probably cook up 4 eggs and eat with it. And that will be a typical one meal for me for the day. And here lately, now I hunt a lot, and I raise most of my food. I'm very, very fortunate in that I've been around cattle and livestock most of my life, and we like raising animals, and almost everything we raise, we eat. So I've got my own chickens, so I get my own eggs. Uh, I've got cattle. I've got a couple of head of cattle. At any one time, we may have anywhere from two to 5 or 6 head of cattle. We've got a small place, can't handle much. Uh, I just took in 2 lambs to the processor Friday. I'm expecting a call back from them any day now. So I raise sheep, I raise cattle, uh, chickens, eggs. I've got 2 bison that we're raising, but the bison aren't on my place. My daughter's actually raising them because I don't have the fences for bison. Don't even think about getting bison if you ain't got good fence. And I've got good enough fence for cattle, but not for bison. And so she's got the bison down at her place. And what we're going to do is when it come time, we've got two calves that we're raising up, and they'll be ready around the end of the year. And then those 2 bison ought to be ready around the end of the year. So we're just going to swap 1 bison for 1 beef, and that way they'll get one of our beeves, and we'll get one of their bisons. And so here lately, this past 2 months, about almost all I've been eating is venison. I love venison. I put 4 there in the freezer this year, and so I eat a ton of venison. All my sausage is venison. All my hamburger is venison, and then I've got the steaks. The thing with venison is it's so lean. I go through a lot of butter
Mm.
because I got to eat the butter with the venison. I got to get the fat. Got to keep that fat ratio up there. And then we don't raise pigs, but I do hunt pigs, and so when I kill a pig, I've got a pork. Once in a while, we'll get a hankering for some ribs, so we will go to the store and buy some spare ribs or some baby back ribs, or maybe a pork butt, and smoke it up. So we just eat a huge variety, but I always try to get at least uh, 1 to 2 pounds of meat in me every day, and cooked in fat, loaded with fat. If it's lean, lots of butter. Pour the rendered fat over it, whatever. Got to get that fat in. I make my own yogurt, which I don't eat much of it because it's very addictive to me. But my wife and my mother-in-law like it, so I make my own yogurt. Uh, I keep all the organs of the animals that I raise and that I hunt. So I've always got heart, liver, kidneys in the freezer. In fact, when I get these 2 lambs back, that'll be 2 more hearts. I'll have about 5 hearts. I'm going to grill them up over a wood fire when I get those lambs back. Uh, so in liver, my wife and my mother-in-law love liver. I'm not a big liver eater as far as just pan frying a piece of liver. It's not my thing, but I've always loved liverwurst, and so I make my own liverwurst. That I like. That
Mm.
I'll eat, and it don't matter if it's deer, bison, whatever. It's all good, and I'll eat the kidneys. We do pretty close to nose to tail.
Nice.
If they save me the spleen, I don't request the spleen, but if they save it, I'll go ahead and grill that up. It doesn't bother me. Uh, If they include the testes, I'll eat those too. That's a cowboy Texas thing. I've when I worked when I worked cattle and worked ranches, I might, oh gosh, we probably castrate 300-400 calves a day, and uh, all those testes, they go into a cooler, and those become lunch. Those become a snack at lunch. Of course, I won't eat them like we used to, because we used to bread them and fry them. But now I'll grill them over an open fire. It's all good food. It's all
Yep.
healthy food.
Yep. Geoff, you've shared your story with Dave Mack,
Yeah.
and on another channel and here. Why do you have this passion to kind of get out there and share your story?
Well, at first it was just a curiosity. I'd never done anything like that. So Dave Mack kept, he's always putting out there, hey, send me an email, I want to interview you. And I thought, I don't know that I really have a story that anybody wants to hear. And to be honest, okay, when you were first starting up your documentary, when you were first in the planning stages of it, you sent out, or you, I'm trying to remember now how it went, but I think you asked for if anybody was interested to contact you. And I did contact you. And uh, you or somebody sent me an email saying, here's our, maybe that wasn't it. I don't remember now, but somehow, maybe it was on your website. Maybe that's what it was. But anyways, you had what your criteria was going to be, and you wanted stories. And the criteria you mentioned in there, I remember, was something about needed to have a quality camera and this, that, and the other thing. And I don't know. All I've got's my phone, and I don't have any quality equipment, and I can't afford to buy any. And I was just like, yeah, I don't know if this is a good idea for me to even bother him with it. I don't I don't have an amazing story like so many of them. I haven't cured all these diseases. Of course, that was before my AFib was reversed, and I just don't have a story. Well, so Dave Mack kept doing this all the time, and I thought, what the heck? I, I'm going to email him, see if he thinks my story is worth publishing. So I put it out there, and of course, he immediately responded, said, "Yeah, get on here." So I did my first interview with him, and that was before my AFib was reversed. And so here a couple of weeks ago, shortly after he hit his thousand interview mark, I sent him. I saw where somebody had done an update with him, and I thought, well, hey, I've got an update I could do with him. So I contacted him and said, yeah, I've got an update on my AFib. And he's like, cool, let's do another interview. And then Bob over on carnivoretalk.com, and Bob's a friend of mine now. Uh, his his talk forum is small, but he's taken me on as a moderator over on his talk forum. So I'm giving a shout out to Carnivore Talk, a little plug there. But Bob interviewed me also, because he's trying to build up his YouTube channel, and I did that. I did that to help him out in that. And then over on Kiltz's tribe, one of the members over there, after she saw my interview with my uh, return interview with Dave, she said, "Why don't you contact Kerry? He's always looking for interviews. You've got a good story. Why don't you contact him?" And man, all the great people he's interviewed, I really don't know that he would want somebody like me on there. But all right, I'll do it. So I went ahead and sent you the email, and here you are. And what's encouraging me is when I look at the responses in the YouTube videos, the comments, I'm amazed at how many people these interviews touch. Not just mine, but all of them. It doesn't matter how big or small the interview, how great the interview, what the subject is. There's always somebody on there that says, "Wow, this really hit home with me,"
Yeah.
because everybody's got a different story. And it's like, this really hit home with me. Thank you so much for coming on here and telling your story. And I've had from Dave Mack's interview, I've had 3 or 4 people come on there and talk about their AFib and said that my story gave them hope. And so, yeah, if it helps one person, fantastic. That's what we're here for, is to help each other. We're a community. And so, yeah, my story may not be interesting to a lot of people, but if it helps one person, if it inspires one person, that's what counts. That's makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah. I love it. I'm with you 100%. Your story is incredible too, by the way. I think it's going to inspire a lot of people. I think about what you said earlier when you were with your wife and you were kind of at your end and you said you couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
I was at a very hopeless moment like that too in my life. And then I think about all of the people you look around in the world right now that are hopeless at this very moment. And you and I have this answer. It's like, you don't
Yeah.
have to be hopeless. There's an answer. There's a key there. It's hard not to, it's like in our human nature or something. It's hard not to want to share that with other people when you find such incredible healing.
That's true. And I've seen it in your enthusiasm. I've had some of the same enthusiasm where when we start experiencing this, we want the word to get out. We want people to know. And unfortunately, sometimes we make bores of ourselves by talking too much about it, by hammering people about it. Uh, we want to tell everybody. And I've had to learn, and my wife has had to beat me down a little bit about it, that not everybody wants to know what you got to say.
Yeah.
Not
My
everybody
wife's
needs
kept
to
me in place
know
in
that.
that regard too.
Yeah, so it's like I go to if I go to a restaurant, and I say, yeah, I'll take the ribeye rare, and they say, what size you want? You know, I have to resist the temptation to say, no, I don't want any of that. I'm carnivore. I resist that. I just say, no, thank you. I don't want it. I appreciate it.
We had a family get together and someone was talking about their health issues and I'm like just biting my lip and my wife looks over and she's like, don't do it. Don't
Don't
do
do
it.
it.
She knows it's coming. I'm like, all right,
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
chill out for
But
a little bit.
on the positive side, I have had people that have seen what I've accomplished, and they have decided that this would be something that they should be doing, and so they ask for my advice and counsel on things. My daughter and my son-in-law are both carnivore. They're not as strict as I am, but they're both carnivore, and they've got their kids now eating a meat-centric diet, not so much junk anymore. So I've seen improvement there. I've got a neighbor that he started going on walks with me, and we talk nutrition and whatnot, among other things. And so he's very interested and he's familiar with diets because he did keto for a long time. Uh, but he's getting interested in carnivore. And so just by being an example around people, you don't have to necessarily tell them what you're doing. A lot of times they'll come and ask you,
Right.
wow, that's amazing. How did you do that? Uh, so I try to keep it on a low key now. But this is what we're doing right now. This is our venue for getting the word out. Because then people can come to it if they want.
Right.
Uh, and, and before it just popped into my head, and before I forget about it, we're talking about parallels and how our journeys have paralleled each other in a lot of ways. When you put out that video, uh, the 5 stages of carnivore, brother, you nailed it. That is exactly my total and complete experience with carnivore, with those 5 stages of what we went through with that. And I just found that amazing. That clicked so well with me.
I
Uh,
appreciate that feedback. What's interesting is I've worked really hard on a lot of videos, and that video was just on a whim. I was just like, I got this idea, let's just record it, and it just kind of subconscious flow. But it seems like that video is resonating with a lot of people. So
yeah.
I appreciate that. This has been great, Geoff. I could talk to you for another hour. This has been incredible. Is there anything you want to shout out or mention, or if people want to find you or learn more?
Well, okay. I don't have any, I'm not on YouTube or anything like that. I don't know that that's my thing to even try that. And there's so many channels out there now as it is. But I am very involved in Kiltz's Mighty Tribe over there on his talk forum. I love it over there. By there I go by Jeffrey Klein. That's how everybody knows me. And uh, so, you know, if anybody wants to contact me, they can find me over there. Join Kiltz's Tribe. It's a great forum. There's a lot of good people over there. Uh, and then I'm a moderator over on carnivoretalk.com. It's private community. You join up. Either me or Bob will be one of the ones to approve you to come on. And just from my last interview with Dave, we've had 2 or 3 people join over at carnivoretalk.com. We're a lot smaller, but still a great bunch of guys. And we're there to lift people up, to encourage them, to answer questions. It's all about community. And I think that's one of the most important things to doing carnivore is not just immersing yourself into the lifestyle, but immerse yourself into the community, because this is where we find our support to keep going. This is where we get the encouragement to keep going. And this is where we learn and get educated, because ain't nobody else out there going to educate us. The doctors ain't, the scientists ain't, they're all against us. You know, we're here by ourselves. And so we're responsible for our own health. Nobody else is. And the community is what's going to help see us through all this. And I'm a pretty strong fella, but I cannot tell you how much people like you and Dr. Barry and Dr. Chafee and Dr. Vadia, Dr. Baker, I can't tell you how much. Tony Hampton, you know, I subscribe to him as well. I can't tell you how much these people encourage me on a daily basis, and I'm immersed in this every single day. I am so caught up in it because I love the education, I love the community, and I love how much everybody helps each other out. And that's what I want to do, is I want to help other people.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much, Geoff. I will have links in the description below for both of those things that Geoff mentioned. I'll put Dave's your interview with Dave on there too, because that was a really good one, and I always love shouting out Dave. So thank you so much, Geoff, for sharing your story. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Carrie, for having me on. It's been great meeting you. I've always wanted to talk to you. You're a pretty cool dude. I wish I could have made the meetup down in Austin. You know, maybe one of these days I'll get to meet you in person. But until then, you know, you're my carnivore brother, and I appreciate all that you do for everybody.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Appreciate your nice words. Have a great day.
You too, sir. Thank you. Bye bye.